Panthers coming out today for the duel against Duke. Second to last home duel of the season for the Panthers. As we take a look at our first 5 matches, we'll start here at 125 with Nick Babin coming in at number 23 and Riley Rowan. Another one to keep an eye on is at 149 with Finn Solomon and S.P. O'Donnell for Duke, coming off a pin in his last match against Virginia Tech. But we start with Babin and Rowan here to get things going, and Pittsburgh trying to improve to 9-3 on the season. Duke Blue Devils looking for their first ACC win of the year, and we're underway at 125.
Babin right away getting in on an attack and on a single leg shot, trying to come out through the back door.
No control. Red, danger, 1.
Babin trying to continue to drive in through.
Right there, takedown.
There's the takedown with the arm up above the waist.
Stop. I got stalemate. He can't improve.
Good start by Babin. Of course, he's a guy transferred in this season from Columbia. Missed about a month due to appendix surgery, and Greg, he's been back now for a few matches, starting to see him get comfortable again after the injury.
Yeah, it was a lot to get back to the mat, right? And for Babin, able to come back from that situation, and now just trying to really, I mean, this is where he's dominant, is on top. He wants to get that leg in, get to his pinning combinations. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? He was wrestling well up until that point when that happened, and you know, he's just trying to make sure he gets to that comfort level. Plenty of time still before the postseason begins, but obviously important here in the ACCs.
Hey, don't let the leg back in now. Don't let the leg back in. Hey, get to your sit here.
Babin himself looking to get back on track. He had a 6-2 decision loss against Vince Robinson of NC State. That was in Raleigh last Friday night. Of course, the Wolfpack once again having a very strong year. Looks like got some blood time here for Riley Rowan and Duke. Of course, the Blue Devils are led by Glenn Lanham in his 13th season. There's 3 NCAA All-Americans with the Blue Devils, and talked about how his team performed against Virginia Tech. They got 4 wins in that duel against the Hokies a week ago, and were able to really battle their way. Of course, Virginia Tech was dealing with some injuries, and Duke was able to make the most of the chances they had in that duel. And for a while there was looking like Duke would have a shot to pull the upset against the Hokies. Ultimately, Virginia Tech got the win, but Glenn Lanham's still happy with what he saw from his team. Yeah, they're definitely wrestling well and making sure they're getting to the right spots here as they get to the second half of the season. You know, he had mentioned running out of time, right, in regards to getting their guys where they want to be for the rankings aspect of the ACCs coming up. So getting these wins are vital, so that way then they can get a good seeding and make sure to get to the NCAAs. Right now, a little 2-on-1 tilt action here from Babin. Not getting any back points, but has control of Rowan, and let's try to get back into that tilt. Now he's trying to throw a wing in. And Babin been riding Rowan for almost the full period here to start things off. He's got that wing in. Now he's going to get that wing tilt. Stay right there, get the back points. I don't have to let go of the hold, so he'll get the points. Looked like 4 swipes there. Given to Babin. Gets 4 near fall points indeed. 7 in the first period for Babin, plus the 2:15 here of riding time. Yeah, you heard the referees there saying still holding. He still had that wing in, same move. Couldn't go back and get more back points until you let go and start fresh. And so that's where Babin got his near fall points and has the 7-0 lead after 1. And Keith Gavin in his 8th season, really enjoyed our conversation with him and talked about his team, where they sit right now, kind of how that compared to what he thought going into the year. And he said he's been pretty happy with how the Panthers have done. Said they really haven't had a bad performance this season and just starting to get frustrated with the close losses. Greg, you and I were talking before the duel today. They really haven't had a bad loss. 3 losses on the year to Ohio State, South Dakota State, and NC State, and all of those were pretty close. And so would like to see his team obviously 11-0 as opposed to 8-3, but overall happy with what he's seen.
Yeah, all those teams are in the top 11, right? So I think for Pitt, they want to get into that top 10, where they're sitting right now at 16. You got to win one of those matches. But I think the biggest thing for Keith Gavin is overall not a bad match for the team, as you see a takedown here from Babin. But I think it's the fact that now he just has to get the wrestlers to make sure they're consistent, right? Like we talked in the open, the consistency aspect for some of the guys, that's where if he can get to that point, not only will they not have bad matches, but then that's when they get those wins inside the top 10.
Yeah, he said you've got to be consistent with your approach or otherwise you're going to end up having inconsistent results. And so that's what Keith Gavin's been trying to preach. Said he's been happy with his upper weights. Those guys have been pretty consistent all season long, and waiting for certain guys at the lower weights to kind of turn a corner, capitalize, and prove their role on this team here in the last portion of the season. How about that? Hard to believe it's February, huh?
Yeah, hard to believe indeed. And you look at this Pitt lineup, too. They're still a young team, right? You have Nick Babin, who's out there right now, and you have Reese Heller. That's it. That's what they'll lose. So you're going to return 8 of your 10 starters into the lineup next year, and then you're going to bring in obviously some recruits, some guys who are redshirting this year. So this is going to be a team that's going to see that improvement, and I think next year is a big year because they're going to make a jump. You look at a lot of the ranked guys. Outside of Babin and Heller, everyone else is going to be back, and everyone else is right there in the teens and in the low 20s. So we're not even talking like barely cutting it in. They're in the rankings. So you would expect with an off season, and obviously it's a number of guys graduating that are in front of them, that they should make a jump next year.
Yeah, really impressive list there. 7 ranked wrestlers for Pitt. And of course, Vinny Santaniello at 133. He's battled an injury. You have to imagine he would probably be ranked as well if he was healthy in the 33 weight class for Pitt. But
yeah, he was ranked all season, right?
Yeah.
So without that injury where he's no longer in the rankings, he'd be right there too. So you're talking about 8 guys in the rankings. And even Anthony Santaniello, right, he's been in and out of the rankings too towards that bottom list. He and Briar Priest have both seen time in the lineup at 141. So to me, it's like those guys are right there near that kind of bottom. I think no one's ranked because both guys have seen time.
so through 2 periods in our opening match of the day, Nick Babin in full control over Riley Rowan. Babin looking for what would be his 7th win of the season. And speaking of transfers and having Coach Gavin go into the portal and do some work to bring in some experienced guys, he did that here at 125 with Babin, and it's largely paid off. The Panther newcomer having a solid season after the injury especially.
Yeah, he's got that ride time point secured right now, so really wants to try to get his escape. And got blood time here. An escape and a takedown, and if he rides him out for the rest, gets the technical fall for the Panthers. So something to keep an eye on is when we get back into action.
So Babin comes in at number 23 in the country in the 125-pound class. Here are the guys across the conference. Of course, mentioned he lost to Robinson last week in Raleigh. Robinson at number 3 in the nation, and you see a few others there across the conference as well. But you look at that result last week, Greg, against Vince Robinson, one of the top guys in the country. I think he's, a guaranteed national championship contender, and Babin doesn't get the win, but keeps it to a decision in a 4-point margin.
Yeah, no doubt. He's right there with the rest of those guys. You look at his ranking at 23. He got upset against West Virginia, and I think that's what brought him back down a bit. But he was in the top 15, Babin. So, no, he's got the talent to be there. And I think that, if he just continues to show improvement, get that consistency that we've talked about, he's going to get right back into that mix. And, solid grouping here at 125 in the ACC. But he could definitely compete with all those guys.
Seems like one of those guys where Keith Gavin's wishing, oh, if I could just get him for one more year, you know? Some kind of waiver maybe we could look into, but this will be it for Babin and Reese Heller, like you said, this season out of eligibility on the Panther team. But again, everybody else back and excited about what the Panthers will have.
So Babin will get a reversal, so now he's going to have to get to work on a tilt if he wants to try to get a technical fall, because the ride time point won't be enough. So he'll need to get to work on offense here on top to try to get his team an extra bonus point.
Work to score points, gentlemen. Work to score points.
30 seconds for Babin to try and get that tech fall. He's secured the riding time, but still needs that one more takedown.
And here he's got, Rowan's got a stalling call. There's a second one, so there's a point right there. Ride time point still won't give him the technical fall. He still needs one more, so try to push the action a bit if you're Babin, or see if you can throw a last-second tilt together, get a couple of swipes, and that's what he's going to try to do here. Just bow and arrow it maybe and see if he can do it, but he can't. And it'll be a major decision win.
So a 14-0 major decision win for Nick Babin to start off the day for the Panthers in emphatic fashion. Well done by the Columbia transfer to get the victory. Improves to 5-3 in duels on the season.